All right, so today we're going to be talking about diabetes and nutrition. So if you don't know me, my name is Hannah Padgett. I'm a registered dietitian, and I work for the state of Florida. And we've been doing, I think this is our 5th class that we've been doing in this nutrition class series for the Rural Health Network. Okay, so I just wanted to do a brief overview about what is diabetes. There's several different types of diabetes. So the first type is called type 1. It's definitely the less common of the two of the diabetics, and it impacts about 5 to 10% of diabetics. Okay, and in type 1, our body doesn't produce any insulin whatsoever. It's actually an autoimmune disease, and it can be diagnosed at any age. Hang on, let me just move this. Okay. All right, so insulin, you need insulin when you do have type 1. Because it helps get the glucose, the sugar, from our bloodstream into the cell of the body. So outside insulin is necessary when you have type 1 diabetes. And it's known that family history plays a pretty big role in type 1 diabetes. And usually we see it diagnosed from anywhere between when kids are really little all the way up to age 40. But we are seeing some older people get diagnosed with type 1 as well, which is becoming more common. And then type 2 is definitely going to be the most common type of diabetes that we see. It makes up 90-95% of all diabetics. And it can range about what is needed when you have type 2. Some type 2 diabetics need insulin, some don't. Some can manage it with medication, or some can manage it even with diet and exercise. But pretty much the body doesn't use insulin properly when you have type 2 diabetes. And like I said, people can control it in several different ways. It definitely depends on the severity of the disease that you have. The third one that we see is called gestational diabetes. And this is when pregnant women who do not have diabetes before becoming pregnant actually have diabetes during pregnancy. We're really unsure of what causes this, but it happens to millions of women. I work with pregnant women as well, and we see it all the time. Hormones during pregnancy actually been shown to block the action of the mother's insulin to her body, which can cause this insulin resistance and cause this gestational diabetes. So a lot of times these women do need insulin or medication to control the diabetes, or sometimes they can control it with diet as well. If the mom does not control her blood sugar when she has gestational diabetes, it can be really harmful to her and the baby. And this fourth one is called prediabetes. And this is when blood sugar levels are higher than normal, but they're not high enough to have that diagnosis of diabetes itself. If you are lucky enough to catch this, when you are in the pre-diabetic stage, you can do some small changes that can help you from developing diabetes itself. And you should really take control of that. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit more about pre-diabetes. So it does not usually, so I'm starting to echo. Let's see. Okay. So it usually doesn't present with any clear symptoms. So you don't feel this pre-diabetes coming on. And like I said, most people who have type 2 diabetes now had pre-diabetes somewhere before they were actually diagnosed with diabetes. If you can catch this at this stage, in this pre-diabetic stage, again, try to take some sort of immediate action to prevent that diabetes diagnosis. What you can do to catch this early on is definitely to go to your doctor for your annual checkup and get that blood work done when you're supposed to be getting your blood work done, because they can pick up on certain markers that they can see if your blood sugar levels are getting high, or some other things they can check as well. So again, if you are diagnosed and the doctor says, hey, you know what, you're in that pre-diabetic stage, you can definitely make some changes. One, the way that you eat. Again, I'm not telling you to cut out, don't cut out all carbs, don't do anything drastic, just trying to eat, a little bit more healthy, follow that eat more, eat some, eat less chart, which I've talked about in several other presentations, and just lowering foods that are not so good for you and just trying to eat more foods that are, healthier for you most of the time. Another thing you can do if you're pre-diabetic is to increase your physical activity. Trying for that goal of at least 150 minutes a week, maybe spread that out into 30-minute increments. And then also it's really important to manage your stress when you're pre-diabetic, okay? So if you find yourself in a really stressful environment, job, whatever you have going on, whatever you can do to try to manage that stress is really gonna help as well. And then there's so many great resources as well. Diabetes.org has a risk test where you actually can go online and it will ask you some questions about your lifestyle and it will tell you what your risk of having prediabetes is. So if you're not sure or maybe you're concerned about it, you could totally go and take this test and then definitely make an appointment to talk to your doctor about it to see what's going on. I had this funny meme. I thought it was funny. And then I said, the doctor will be with you in a minute. And the nurses are laughing because we all know sometimes it takes forever to see the doctor, but you still need to go. So definitely make that annual appointment and get in there to get your blood work done and just get a checkup. Okay. Okay. So I want to talk about some risk factors. Definitely carrying extra weight can increase your risk for type 2 diabetes. And not only type 2 diabetes, but also heart disease and stroke. So having a body mass index of greater than 25 is going to classify as you being overweight, and then over 30 is going to be obese. Okay. So knowing where you fall on that range is definitely good to know if you're at an increased risk for these diseases, especially diabetes. Some other risk factors are going to include being over age 45. If you have it in your family, so if your parent, your brother, your sister, someone in your family has type 2 diabetes, you do have an increased risk. If you're not physically active at all, if you sit around a lot and you're not really moving much, that is also an increased risk factor. If you've had gestational diabetes in the past with a pregnancy, you actually have a 25% increased risk of having diabetes later. And then if you have PCOS, it also increases your risk. Okay. Research continues to show that weight loss is one of the key factors in reducing the risk of diabetes, and it doesn't have to be a huge amount of weight loss. They show about a 5 to 7% total body weight loss can actually lower your risk of developing type 2 diabetes. So, for example, if you weigh around 200 pounds, a weight loss of about 10 to 14 pounds can really, really lower your risk of developing diabetes. So we talked about successful weight loss tips in the past, but I just wanted to reiterate these. So again, we have a lot of research on some strategies that you can do that have been proven to be successful when it comes to weight loss. The first one is maintaining a consistent eating pattern across weekdays and weekends. So if you're somebody that, eats really healthy Monday through Friday, but then the weekend hits and you kind of just throw it all away, really trying to rein that in and trying to eat consistently 7 days a week. Okay. People that have higher levels of physical activity have been shown to have successful weight loss. So again, being active the rest of your life, pretty much. Okay. Following a lower calorie diet has been helpful, eating breakfast regularly, and also self-monitoring your weight. So just knowing where your weight is at and knowing where you kind of want to go with it. So with physical activity, it's definitely going to help decrease your risk of becoming diabetic, and weight loss and physical activity together can make a really big difference. So really trying to make a goal with healthy eating as well as being physically active in some aspect. So again, they always recommend about 150 minutes a week of, brisk or similar activity, about moderate intensity. And again, just trying to split this up. I don't expect anyone to go out and work out for 150 minutes or go walk for that long. You can definitely split it up into 10, 20, 30-minute increments and really trying to get that up to 150 for that week. So physical activity, if you don't really know where to start, just start somewhere. I just have some ideas here, just going for a 10-minute walk a day, starting somewhere that can really help, and then just trying to work up from there. You can also park far away, like if you go to the grocery store or you're going to some other store, park far away so you can get some extra steps in. It's a great, great tool. Instead of driving, especially in Key West, you guys are pretty much close to a lot of things in that town, trying to bike or walk to work or school. Taking the stairs instead of the elevator, that can also increase your activity. Home workout videos, lots of free stuff out there. Take advantage of the internet. Search whatever things that you enjoy doing and see what you can find. Even 5-10 minutes can do something. And then simple workouts you can do anywhere. You don't necessarily need a gym or a personal trainer to do something. There's plenty of things that we can do in our home with body weights, with sit-ups, just some squats, some lunges. There's some really great stuff that we can do just inside of our home, or go to a park, or meeting with a friend. Definitely having an accountability buddy, so like having somebody else doing it with you can really help as well. So I highly recommend doing that as well. So diabetes and heart health. So when you are diabetic, you actually have a higher risk of having heart disease and or a stroke. So it's really important when you have diabetes to make sure that your blood pressure and your cholesterol levels are also within normal limits. And another, when it comes to diet, really making sure that you're watching the salt in your diet, and then also the saturated fats in your diet. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And also, if you do smoke, really trying to quit smoking. With diabetes and smoking, your risk of heart disease is very, very high. So try to quit smoking, and even staying away from secondhand smoke is recommended. All right, so what role does nutrition play when it comes to diabetes? So following a healthy eating pattern can really prevent the complications of diabetes. So unfortunately, when you have diabetes, there's a lot of complications that can come with it, which include neuropathy, skin issues, eye problems, foot problems, kidney disease, and again, heart disease. So if you follow that healthy eating pattern, you can have healthy blood sugar levels, your cholesterol will be good, and your blood pressure should be good as well. So I want to touch on what we call the macronutrients. So macro, which I'm sure maybe some of you have heard before, is short for called macronutrient. And basically it's an energy containing component of food, okay? We also have micronutrients, which is actually our vitamins and minerals, which do not contain calories. So the three ones we want to know more about are going to be, again, those macronutrients. And the three macronutrients are protein, fat, and carbohydrates. So what does protein do? It helps build and maintain muscle. It also helps a lot of other processes in our body work appropriately. It's very important to get every day. We also have fat. So fat also is important. It helps insulate and protect our bodies, and it helps fat-soluble vitamins absorb properly. And then last but not least, we have carbohydrates, or called carbs for short. It's the primary fuel for our muscles and our brain cells. So can anyone guess which macronutrient affects our blood sugar? Does anybody know? Anybody?
I'm going to guess carbs.
Yes, so carbs.
Yes. Carbs.
All right. Carbohydrates. If you guess carbs, you are right. So fat nor protein really affects your blood sugar in any significant way. So carbohydrates are the most important macro or macronutrient for managing diabetes when it comes to nutrition. So what are carbs? Carbs are chains of sugar molecules. When we eat carbs, our body breaks them down into glucose, which is a type of sugar, which then raises the glucose level in your blood. Then your pancreas releases insulin, which takes that glucose from your blood and puts it into your cells. This provides fuel to keep you going throughout the day. But when you have diabetes, you either lack insulin or your insulin mechanism is compromised, so it doesn't work properly. So this causes your blood sugar, or the sugar in your blood, to build up really, really high because it's not getting into your cells, and which causes something called hyperglycemia, which is that high blood sugar, okay? So where do carbohydrates come from? We have two main types. You're going to have the simple carbs and the complex carbs. So simple carbs are broken down really fast in our bodies, okay? They raise blood sugar super, super fast. So they're not the best for diabetics. I'm not saying you can never eat them, but we want to just be mindful of these foods, okay? This is like cakes and pies and soda, juice, honey, pure sugar, agave, any of those, maple syrup, even things that we think are healthier, they're all considered simple carbs, and they're all going to raise our blood sugar super fast. And then we have complex carbs, okay, which are usually more whole foods. So they're broken down like simple carbs, but they usually have something called fiber in it, which helps slow our digestion and means our blood sugar levels won't rise as quickly. So when it comes to carbohydrates, these foods you should be eating more often than the simple carbohydrates. So these are more whole foods. So potatoes, oats, any type of whole grain like brown rice, high fiber fruits. So berries are going to be your highest fiber fruit. So strawberries, blackberries, blueberries, all really great. Again, whole wheat grains and vegetables. Again, really trying to stick with more whole food choices. Okay. So we all ask, you know, this is the $1 million question for a lot of diabetics. So how many carbs should I eat? How do I know how to control my blood sugar? So we have a general recommendation for about 30 to 60 grams of carbs per meal and 50 to 30 grams of carbs per snack. And I'm going to talk later about how we know what that looks like. But this is and should be very individualized, okay? Everyone is very different. Some diabetics are really, really sensitive to carbs and have to eat very little amounts to control their blood sugar. And some need a lot more to prevent something called low blood sugar, which is called hypoglycemia. So how do we figure it out? Well, there's several things we want to do. So we want to check our blood sugars regularly, okay? We want to know where they're at, specifically fasting. So first thing in the morning when you're waking up. And then also after we're eating, so 1 to 2 hours after eating is a good time to check your blood sugar to see how food affects it. The other thing you want to know is to understand how other things besides food can impact our sugars. And then also be very aware of your medication and your dose of medication and know what you're supposed to be taking. And then following up with your doctor regularly so the doctor can monitor your labs to see if the medications or if it's working for you, if something needs to be adjusted. Following up regularly is super, super important. So the Academy of Diabetics have this great plate method that they want for most diabetics to be following. So I'm just going to go through this. So make half your plate non-starchy vegetables, okay? So non-starchy vegetables have a lot of fiber and very little carbohydrate. They just have very little calories overall. So it's not going to have a very big impact on your blood sugar. So it's a good thing to eat a lot of. It also carries a lot of vitamins and minerals, and a high vegetable diet has been shown to reduce a lot of diseases as a whole as well. So these are like things like lettuce, cucumbers, broccolis, tomatoes, green beans, spinach, mushrooms, all those good veggies. Then you want to make sure you're getting some carbohydrates, okay? We do want to eat some carbs in our diet. A lot of times diabetics avoid all carbs, and that can be really dangerous. We do want to make sure we're getting some carbohydrates to keep our blood sugar at a good range, okay? So again, you want to try to eat those minimally processed carbs. So fruit, so apples, berries, cantaloupe, brown rice, whole wheat bread, whole wheat pasta, oatmeal, corn, green peas, potatoes, pumpkin, beans, lentils. So the last ones I mentioned, they are vegetables, but anything that is starchy or you can like squish in your finger and it feels starchy, that's going to raise your blood sugar. It's going to be a higher one than say like some lettuce or green beans, okay? So that one is considered a carbohydrate. You need to count those. And then and then on that other quarter, you want to get a good protein source of food. So again, remember, protein isn't going to raise your sugar, okay? And protein is really important for building muscle and a lot of other processes in our body, okay? Also, high protein diets have been associated with weight loss. So another important thing, another reason why we want to include it. So protein sources, again, trying to choose lean meat sources. So we have a lot of great fish in the Keys, eat some fish, chicken, turkey, leaner ground beef, leaner cuts of steak, things like that. And then when it comes to beverages, especially with diabetics, really trying to choose water or 0-calorie drinks, okay? You want to save the juices, the sodas for hypoglycemia, which we'll talk about later, okay? Really trying to drink those, try to avoid them as if you can, okay? I just wanted to throw this out there. If some people like to use their hand as a way to figure out how much they're supposed to be eating. I like this method if you're especially if you're out eating at dinner and you want to try to figure out what your portions should look like. So using your palm as your protein source. So we all have a different size palm. So that's a great way to know how much you should be eating. So the protein source should be about the size of your palm. Veggies about a fist. And again, probably about 2 servings of those veggies. We want to make about half our plate vegetables, okay? And then for the carbs, the cupped hand servings. So this is usually about a half a cup. So for most diabetics, that's usually pretty good. Again, might be more, might be less. Again, making sure you're checking the other things to figure out which is the most appropriate for you. And then with fats, about a thumb serving. So if you're doing like olive oil or you have some nuts or something, okay, the fats you want to do a smaller amount of as well. Okay. So we talked about a little about what you should eat, but now I want to talk about also when you should eat, because that's also very important when it comes to being a diabetic. So most people should be eating about every 3 to 4 hours, about 4 times a day. And this is even more important for diabetics because it keeps our blood sugar stable. Not eating for long periods can lead to hypoglycemia, again, that low blood sugar, which can be dangerous. And then eating too much and too often can lead to hyperglycemia, again, high blood sugar, especially if you're eating a lot of carbohydrates. So you really want to start getting in the habit of eating, about every 3 to 4 hours, and not, eating a huge breakfast or a huge dinner, and really trying to get in a mode of eating consistently the same amount of food 3 to 4 times a day. You also want to do some other things when you're eating. Practice eating slow, taking time, 10 to 15 minutes. We talked about this before in another presentation. It takes that long for our satiety signals to start kicking in. So slowing down can help you eat smaller amounts of food, okay? Eating without distractions, so not being on your phone, watching TV, working, realizing what you're eating and enjoy eating, be a mindful eater, okay? And then take water, fluid breaks. That can also help slow you down as well. So I want to talk a little bit about supplements, because we do hear a lot about supplements, especially in the diabetes world. So I just want to let everyone know that you do want to be careful before adding any type of vitamin or supplement regimen to your routine, because they can really interact with your current medications. Okay, some can even intensify your diabetes medications, which can cause low blood sugar, which again can be very dangerous. And some can even cause your blood sugar to raise and cause that hyperglycemia. So again, check with your doctor before you start taking anything, so they can, make sure that it's compatible with what you're taking. So I want to talk about some few in particular that have kind of been in the news, or if you search supplements that kind of come up. So the first one's called chromium. It's been shown that if you are deficient in this mineral, it could actually be contributing to your hyperglycemia or your high blood sugar. So it could be worth supplementing, but you need to know if you're deficient or not first. So you need to have some sort of lab work done and discuss it with your doctor. Also, if you do have kidney damage, you do not want to take the supplement because it may cause further damage, okay? Next one is vitamin E and St. John's wort. Both have dangerous reactions with blood thinning medications that are used to treat heart disease. Warfarin is one of the blood thinning medications that I see a lot of clients on. So if you are on that medication or any other blood thinning medication, be careful before taking vitamin E and St. John's wort, okay? Niacin. So a lot of people are supplementing with this because it's been shown to raise good cholesterol, HDL, but it could also raise fasting blood sugar levels. So this means your blood sugar level before eating. So like right when you wake up in the morning. So research does show that niacin can raise our good cholesterol, but unfortunately there's no evidence to show that it can actually lead to lower risk of heart disease. So it might not even be worth taking. So again, talk to your doctor before considering this medication or this supplement. B12, so one of the B vitamins that's been pretty popular, can be helpful to supplement if you're a diabetic and know you're a deficient. If you take a drug called metformin, which we see a lot of diabetics on, you actually have a higher risk of becoming B12 deficient. So it's a good thing to check with your annual labs. So a lot of doctors already check for this, but if you notice that it hasn't been checked and you are on metformin, ask your doctor, be an advocate for yourself. Be like, hey, can you check my B12 levels? Okay. Having low B12, one of the biggest signs is being really tired, a lot of fatigue. Vitamin C and E. So some people suggest can help avoid diabetes and complications. There's no research to support this currently, okay? And then vitamin D, another one that's pretty popular now. There is an association between higher vitamin D concentrations in the blood during childhood and lower risk of type 1 diabetes. So that's pretty interesting. But more research is definitely needed. But if you are vitamin D deficient, you need to take a supplement. So this is something your doctor should definitely check. As we get older, we don't get a lot of iodine from the sun. We don't synthesize it as well. So definitely something to ask your doctor to check that level for you if you haven't had it checked, okay? Cinnamon. So we hear this a lot with diabetics. In it, some people think that it can actually be a replacement for diabetes medication, which it definitely cannot. There is some research to suggest that it can help lower blood sugar. So by all means, enjoy while you're eating or cooking. Put it on your oatmeal. Put it on some, baked apples or something. Whatever, cinnamon is great, and there is some promise in helping to reduce some blood sugar with it. So get a yummy taste and that benefit. So, and then we have alpha lipoic acid, ALA for short. This has been shown to reduce some pain from diabetic neuropathy. There are ALA injections, but they're only available in Europe, which have been shown to improve symptoms of neuropathy in the short term. Unfortunately, they're not available in the US. They only have pill form, and the results from the pill form are not as strong as the injections. So again, discuss with your doctor. Pretty much bottom line, if you're thinking about supplementing with something or starting something, just talk with your doctor about it before adding it to your daily routine. Okay, so I want to touch a little bit about nutrition label. We've talked about this a few times, but it is really important, especially when it comes to knowing how much carbohydrates is in food. It can be really helpful for diabetics. So there's a lot of things you want to look for when you're looking at a nutrition label. The first thing you want to look at is the serving size, because all the information, the carbohydrates, the amount of fat, it's all based on that specific serving size. And then you want to look at the amount per serving. So if it says 3 servings in something and you eat the entire food product, then you have to times everything by 3. So you really, really want to be aware of what that serving size is and how many servings is in that whole container of that food that you're eating. One of the most important places you want to look for when you're a diabetic is that total carbohydrate amount. You don't need to look at the added sugars. You don't need to look at the fiber specifically, because all of that is included in that total carbohydrate count. Of course, it's good to look at the fiber because you want a higher fiber product because fiber is good. But again, when you're counting carbohydrates to figure out how many you want to eat, it's all included under that total carbohydrate amount. So again, added sugar is included in total carbohydrates. And again, fiber, you do want to get a lot of fiber in your diet. Around 25 to 38 grams a day you should be getting. Okay, so there is a new food label out. It's been out for a while now, and it's almost completely out. There's still some companies that are changing over. So the one on the left is the old nutrition label, and then the one on the right is the new one. So you can see here the serving size and the calories are bigger, which is really great. So we can really, really see what we're eating. They also started adding the added sugars are in there again, but the added sugar is included in the carbohydrates. Okay. They also put the actual amounts of vitamin D, calcium, iron, potassium on the bottom, so you know exactly how much you're getting. So this new label is really, really helpful in a lot of ways. So again, if everyone can see that total carbohydrate count for this food product on the right is 37 grams. So below that, you see dietary fiber, total sugar, and the added sugar. All of that is already included in that total carbohydrate number. So if you would eat this piece of food and you ate exactly 2/3 of a cup, you would be getting 37 grams of carbohydrates. But if you ate this whole container, you would have to take that 37 number and times it by 8, because there's 8 servings in that container. So that'd be a lot of carbohydrates if you ate the whole thing. So some other things you want to consider when you are reading a nutrition label is there's something called sugar alcohols. So we see a lot of these in diabetes products that claim to be sugar-free because it's a sugar substitute and it has fewer calories than real sugar. So examples include, it says sorbitol, xylitol, and mannitol. These are those sugar alcohols that you might see on a nutrition label. And they are included under total carbohydrates. So they do make it easy to, know how many carbohydrates are in them. Again, it's used in a lot of sugar-free foods, but they're still going to have some carbs. So just because it says sugar-free or made with sugar alcohols does not mean it's a free food and you can just eat as much as you want of it. You do want to look at that total carbohydrate on the nutrition label so you're aware of how much you're eating. And sugar alcohols can also cause stomach issues for a lot of people. because they're resistant to digestion. So they just kind of go right through you. It can cause bloating and diarrhea and gas. So just be mindful if it is something that doesn't work for you. Again, we want to make sure that we're looking or we're watching our fats and sodium when we're a diabetic, okay? So we want to look for products lowest in saturated fats. So saturated fats are on the label. So it's a good thing to compare other products to choose the lowest one in saturated fats. So again, we want saturated fats to be about less than 10% of our total calories per day. So if you're eating 2,000 calories, you want to know more than about 200 calories of saturated fat. Again, trans fat, trying to avoid all of trans fats. Again, that's also on the label. And then sodium, you really want to stay under 2,300 milligrams a day. And really for diabetics, they recommend even lower amounts of sodium, about 1,500 milligrams per day. So being mindful of the sodium amount on your labels as well is really important. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about blood sugar readings and where you guys should be at when you are a diabetic. So I just wanted to compare a non-diabetic to a diabetic too. So non-diabetics, before they eat, their blood sugar is usually anywhere between 72 and 99 millimoles per liter. And then for diabetics, before a meal, we really want your sugar to be below that 130, but we also want it to be above 70. Okay, so anywhere between 70 and 130. And then 1 to 2 hours after meals, which is called postprandial, you want it to be under 140 when you're non-diabetic. And when you're a diabetic, you want it to be under 180. Again, a lot of doctors sometimes individualize these readings for you. So if you do have a specific range they want you to be under or around, definitely go with that. But if you're not sure and you haven't really been provided any type of range, try to stick to these. These are the ADA's recommendations for most diabetics. So again, 1 to 2 hours after you eat, you check your blood sugar. It should be under 180, okay? Before you eat, so fasting in the morning should be between 70 and 130. So if you're a diabetic and you notice these sugars are a lot higher than this, and the doctor hasn't mentioned anything about where your sugar should be at, you want to let him know at your next appointment, like, hey, my blood sugar levels seem really high, or they don't seem like they're in a good range. Like, maybe we should talk about this. So being an advocate for yourself too is really important. Another thing they look at when you're a diabetic is something called the A1C. Okay, this is a 3-month average of our blood sugar reading. This should be continually monitored by your healthcare provider. Some monitor it every 3 months, some every 6 months. At least going to your doctor once a year when you're diabetic and getting this done is really important. Okay, it gives us kind of an overview of where your sugars are at. And for diabetics, they want you to be under 7% for your A1C. So again, if your A1C is 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, I've seen even an 18 before, okay? You really, really want to work on controlling your diabetes. What's going on with your medication? Are you on insulin? What's going on with your eating? You got to figure out what's going on and you got to talk to your healthcare provider. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about other things that can impact your sugar besides just food. So these are the other things that can make your blood sugar shoot up, okay? If you're dehydrated, so if you're not drinking enough fluids throughout the day, it can actually make your blood sugar go up. Again, not being active, just sitting around, your blood sugar can be high. If you don't have enough insulin or your medication isn't strong enough, it's just not working, you need to go to the doctor, you need to get that adjusted. Side effects from other medications. So if you start taking maybe a steroid, okay, a lot of us take steroids for other things, or antipsychotic medications, that can increase our blood sugar. Being sick, being stressed, if you're on your period, and if you have long-term pain, all those things can increase to high blood sugar. So it might not be your food. There might be something else going on that we need to figure out. Also want to talk about low blood sugar, which is called hypoglycemia. So what things can cause low blood sugar? So again, we talked about not eating enough. So if you start skipping meals or you're not eating enough carbs with your meals, okay? Alcohol. So if you're drinking alcohol, especially on an empty stomach, this can decrease your blood sugar. And again, low blood sugar is again under 70, okay? If you take too much insulin or your medications aren't right. So I do see this a lot. So say you have somebody and they start losing weight and they don't change their medication regimen, they can actually get low blood sugar more often. It needs to be adjusted. They might need to be taken off insulin or even taken off their medication if they're doing other things like eating healthy and losing weight. Okay, so if you are on some sort of diet or meal plan or you're trying to lose weight, let your doctor know so they're aware that they might need to change your medication or your insulin. Side effects from other medications. So not only can they cause high blood sugar, but some can cause low blood sugar as well. And then if you start exercising more, you're more active than usual, that can also lower your blood sugar. Okay. Okay, so I do want to talk about hypoglycemia and what to do when you have that low blood sugar, because that's really, really important. Low blood sugar can be really dangerous. If your blood sugar is too low and it continues to drop below that 70, the brain does not get enough glucose and it stops functioning as it should. It can lead to blurry vision, difficulty concentrating, confusion, slurred speech, numbness, sleepiness. And if it stays too low for too long, it can sometimes even become a coma or even death. Okay. I don't want to scare anyone, but it has happened. So you do want to be aware of where your blood sugar is at. If you do check your blood sugar and you see that 70 or below, you want to do the 15-15 rule. So this happens, so when you check your sugar and it's below 70, you want to eat 15 grams of fast acting carbs. Those are those simple carbs. And then you want to wait, and then you want to check your sugar again in 15 minutes. If it is still below 70, you repeat this all over again. So you eat another 15 grams of carbs and wait another 15 minutes to check your sugar. Again, you want to eat a fast acting carb. So we don't want to go eat some berries or an apple. We want to eat, drink 4 ounces of juice or regular soda, not diet. They also make glucose tabs and gel tubes tabs with glucose in it for diabetics. You want to do a quick tablespoon of sugar or honey or corn syrup or maple syrup. If you have some candies, make sure that you get about 15 grams worth and pop those as well. So some hard candy, some jelly beans. So it is important to have these foods around if you do have that low blood sugar to treat this low blood sugar. Okay. If you do find yourself experiencing a lot of low blood sugar, again, talk to your doctor. You may have to get that medication adjusted or something else might be going on. You don't want to be constantly having low blood sugar, okay? Excuse me. A lot of times I see this happen, okay? So people think that they have low blood sugar, but they don't check it. So they don't actually know if they have low blood sugar. So one of the biggest things that we recommend is to always check before you eat a bunch of carbs, okay? Because it might not be low blood sugar, you just might be feeling well. So eating a lot, so if that happens and you actually don't have low blood sugar, and then you eat a bunch of carbs, and then it can make your blood sugar go into hyperglycemia. You could be eating, your sugar could get too high at that point. So again, you always want to check your sugar before doing that 15-15 approach and following that 15-15 approach, okay? You don't need to drink a whole can of Coke. You don't need to eat, 15 cookies. You want to really make sure you're doing about 15 grams of fast acting carbs and then checking your sugar again to make sure you're above that 70. And then once you do get your blood sugar above 70 after it's been low, go ahead and eat a good balanced meal. Eat some good carbs, eat some healthy fats, eat a good, some good protein within that next 1 to 2 hours so that sugar doesn't drop again. So again, we want to be able to prevent hypoglycemia before it happens. So how do we do this? We check our sugars before and after meals. We know how certain foods impact our sugar. We check our sugars before and after exercise, especially if you're starting a new exercise program. You want to know before you start that your blood sugar is okay. And then after you complete that program, that your blood sugar is still okay. It's also good to check your sugar before bed. We don't want to be going into hypoglycemia when we're sleeping, because sometimes we don't wake up to feel it. Sometimes you have to check it in the middle of the night, your blood sugar, especially if you complete an intense exercise that day. And then it's really important to also check when you are put on a new insulin or medication regimen. If you have some new work schedule that impacts other things, again, new workout schedule, or if you're traveling a lot across time zones, being mindful of where your blood sugar's at. All right, so I just wanted to go through some current statistics we have on diabetes. So the CDC estimates about 88 million people in the US currently have prediabetes, and most do not even know it. So that's a huge number of people walking around with prediabetes and they don't even realize it's going on. Okay. And then when people that are actually having diabetes or diagnosed with diabetes, it's about 1 in 10 people. So that's a pretty big number of people with diabetes. So of the estimated 34 million people in the US with diabetes in 2018, about 1 in 5 were undiagnosed and only 15% were previously diagnosed with diabetes. So that tells us that we really could have caught more of these pre-diabetics before they became diabetes. They got that diabetes diagnosis. So the U.S. Preventative Task Force is actually working on a new draft recommendation for pre-diabetes and diabetes screening for people who are overweight or obese. So if approved, which hopefully it will recommend that people 35 years to 70 years of age be screened for pre-diabetes and diabetes every 3 years. So the current recommendation is just for people over 40. So we're going to hopefully catch some more people who are, in that range a little bit earlier. All right, so I just want to do some main takeaways from this presentation. So not just diabetics, everyone can benefit from eating the same way that diabetics eat, which is just a balanced diet and eating consistently throughout the day. Most people and diabetics, again, should be eating mostly whole, unprocessed foods, specifically when it comes to carbohydrates, eat around the same time every day and about every 3 to 4 hours. Really reducing those simple high sugar carbs and only using those when you are having those low blood sugar episodes. Work on developing a physical activity schedule, again, starting somewhere and increasing from there, trying to aim for those 150 minutes a week. If you are smoking, try to quit smoking and stay away from the secondhand smoke. And please, please, please monitor your blood sugar levels. Know what your sugars are, know what your medications are and how much you should be taking, and make sure you have a good healthcare provider that follows up closely with you and monitors all those levels for you. All right. Does anybody have any questions? That was a lot of information.
Maybe I'll think of it a second.
Okay.
I have a question, Hannah.
Okay.
So I did recently go back to the gym.
Yay!
And I have lost weight. And then, so that was March, I went back. So I've lost 14 pounds. And then this month, April, I cut out going to fast food places, all the drive-thrus that I was addicted to and going to. So it's been 2 weeks, 2 weeks into April, going into 3 weeks. I have not been to a drive-thru. So I think all of that is really good, but I'm on a schedule where it's a natural schedule. Nobody put me on it. It's just, I'm going with what my body feels like it needs. I am diabetic. So I'm kind of on a keto diet without being like on a keto diet. You know what I mean? Like, so I eat a big breakfast around 10 a.m. and then I'll do a big dinner around 5 something, 6 evening. And then I don't eat anymore. I might snack a little right before I go to bed, but bedtime is 3 a.m. So that's a lot of time in between a meal, but it's working for me. I don't feel like I'm sick or nothing. I don't feel like I'm deprived or nothing. I don't take my blood sugar. So I don't know if that's not working for me. So my question is, because I don't take my blood sugar, I don't like taking it. It hurts. I don't like it. I don't like anything about it. And my doctor doesn't enforce me to do it. So if it's working for me and I feel okay, can you trust what you feel if you feel okay?
Have you had your lab work done?
I go every 3 months and get my lab work.
And where
religiously.
And what's your A1C?
They're coming down. I'm down from 7.3. I'm down to 6.5 now.
Okay, that's awesome.
So it's been coming slowly down.
Okay, and are you on medication as well? Like, what's your medication? Okay.
Yeah, I'm on glyceride 2 milligrams.
Okay, I mean, yeah, as long as your blood work is good and your check. I mean, the thing with A1C is it is a 3-month snapshot. But sometimes your number might look good, but you might be having a lot of lows and a lot of highs, and that could look like it looks good, right? Because it averages that out. That's what that A1C is. So I can't 100% guarantee tell you that it's working because I don't know what those blood sugar levels look like. Have you talked to your doctor? So they have other ways to check blood sugar now. They have a continuous glucose monitoring system they can actually put on you, and it checks your sugar without you having to prick yourself. Have you talked to the doctor about something like that?
No, I didn't know about it.
Yeah, they have some awesome new things, some new technology they're coming out with diabetics that literally monitor your glucose levels without you having to prick your finger. So that is something you could talk to your doctor about maybe looking into. Because again, the A1C is a great thing to tell us. But again, if you're having maybe a lows and highs and it's averaging out that look normal, then that's not necessarily so good. But again, I don't know if that's happening. That could be happening, or it might be really good and what you're doing is working really well for you. So there is a little bit of concern that you don't know what your sugars are, but they might be good. I just don't know because you're not checking. So it's just hard to tell. So yes, I can't 100% tell you that your everything is good. But your A1C level is great, so that's great. But it's not the end all be all of what tells you if your diabetes management is good or not. Pretty much, if that makes sense.
Well, you said to test it so many times during this session. I'm like, oh my God, she said it like 10 times. And it's what I hate. But I'm going to ask my doctor about this, whatever you just said, the monitoring glucose through whatever you said.
Yeah, say that you heard about something where you don't have to prick yourself to know what your blood sugar levels are. And see what it is about that, because a lot of insurance companies will cover those monitoring systems for you. So that might be a good option for you, just to be more in control of to know what your blood sugar levels are doing. I'm not saying you have to check them all day, every day, but it's good to check them every now and then. Like, especially if you eat a certain meal and you eat that meal a lot and you want to see how that meal affects your blood sugar, like you check it, you're like, oh, this meal, my sugar is 120. That's great. So that meal is good for me, So maybe just checking it every now and then if you have a meal that's new or a meal that you want to check to see how you're doing. So you could do it every now and then too, and that would help as well.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I just got put on the Freestyle Libre. It's the monitor. I only have to change it once every 2 weeks, and you're not pricking your finger every day, and you just take the reading with your phone.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's been awesome.
So there you go. See, there's someone else that's using that monitoring system. They don't have to prick their finger. So it's becoming more prevalent now, which is great.
My doctor originally had prescribed the Dexcom for me, but that one was more expensive. That one's going to be like $500 a month because my insurance wasn't going to cover it, but then it covered the other one, and that one's only like $50 a month.
Okay, well, there you go. That's great. So you get all the information on your phone, right? So you can see trends. You can see a lot of good information. That's awesome.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Candace here in the classroom has a question for you.
Okay.
Yes. Potatoes were bad. For some reason, I thought we weren't supposed to eat that.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah. So I get that a lot. They're like, am I not supposed to eat potatoes? Am I not supposed to eat white bread? No, you can eat those foods, again, in controlled amounts. And then you also want to eat those foods with other foods like protein and healthy fats. It's going to help control that blood sugar level from rising too high. So again, checking your sugar to know how it affects your sugar, but there should be no reason that you can't eat a potato. A potato is a good whole food. It has fiber in it. It can be part of a healthy diabetic diet for sure. I see plenty of diabetics eat potatoes, have no problem with it.
Lose weight, potatoes are okay, huh?
She was saying that, yeah, trying to lose weight, potatoes are okay.
Yep, you can definitely have potatoes and lose weight at the same time. It's definitely doable. Definitely doable. Again, everything in moderation, and it can definitely be part of a healthy meal plan. If you find yourself, if you're restricting too much, you can only do that for so long, and then you revert back to what you were doing before. So how does it really help, you know, at that point? If you can figure out how to fit potatoes and foods that you love into your diabetic diet and your blood sugars and everything else can still be controlled, why not do that? Why not allow yourself that, you know, that freedom to have foods that you love? But again, also having a lot of other foods that are really good for you at the same time. So I really don't ever tell someone to avoid something, even if they're diabetic. You know, find ways to fit it into your diet and make sure everything else falls into place at the same time. Okay. And then making sure, again, most of the time you're including really good, healthy foods in that diet, and then enjoying yourself when you as well at the same time. It's definitely doable.
I do have another question.
Yeah.
I was here, you had a breakfast. Is feta cheese better than other cheese? You had mentioned you use that in the recipe. And I don't ever use feta cheese.
Yeah, no, feta cheese can definitely be part of, again, a healthy diet as well. If you get a real feta cheese made with like sheep's milk, it actually is digested a little bit easier than say like a cow's milk cheese for a lot of people too. So yeah, cheeses, feta cheese would be really good. All those can be incorporated into a healthy diet as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've actually had, I've worked with a couple diabetics who have cut out carbs completely and their sugars still seem to be high. And then we've added carbs back into their diet and their sugars stabilize. So again, it's all about checking your sugars, knowing what your blood work looks like, and again, eating healthy, being physically active, and doing a lot of other things as well. And when all that falls into a place, you can definitely eat, you know, healthy meals with carbohydrates and all good foods as well. So it's definitely doable.
Smart tips. Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I hope you guys learned something.
You know, I always learn something from every class. I love your classes. I'll just throw that out there.
Thank you.
No matter what we're talking about, you know, it always seems that nutrition is like the core of a healthy body and a healthy mind. And you really do a good job with pointing those out as far as going all the way down from physical exercise, sleep, how to manage your stress, and then just how to eat and what to do when you have those questions about how much to eat or what to do when you need to fix something. So I appreciate all of your points that you point out to us. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And food is all something to be enjoyed. We all love eating. So that's a big part of diet and nutrition as well, is having a healthy mental part of eating as well. Like you want to enjoy what you're doing too. So there's a lot of parts with it that, yeah.
Can I ask, what do you feel about the keto diet? As a nutritionist, how do you feel?
About what diet? Sorry.
Keto diet.
So keto diet. I have seen some diabetics. I actually saw one type 1 diabetic that was following the keto diet, and it worked actually really, really well for him. So there are some people that benefit on a keto diet. And again, nutrition is not one size fits all. If you find something that works well for you and everything else checks out, then that's great. I would totally encourage you to continue doing that. Does keto diet work for everyone? Definitely not. I have a lot of people, I've had a lot of diabetics try it out. It didn't work for them. They got a lot of low blood sugars. They started getting headaches, fatigue, dizziness. So it's definitely not for everyone, but there has been people that have benefited from a very low carbohydrate diet. That's what the keto diet is. It's about less than 50 grams of carbs a day. So it's very, very, very low on carbohydrate.
What about their products? What do you think about their products?
So just be careful. Just because it says keto doesn't even necessarily mean that it's full keto.
Right.
So again, check that nutrition label and know what you're getting. Okay. You know, a lot of times the keto diet is really, really high in fat. Okay. So that can start being a problem if it's really high in saturated fats, because saturated fats increase your risk of heart disease, stroke, and diabetes if you don't already have diabetes. So just be mindful of how much fat you're eating and from what certain sources you're getting that fat from. Okay. Because when they don't have carbs, what do they have to replace the carbs with? A lot of times they replace it with fat. So just be mindful of that as well.
If you're a type 2 diabetic and your blood sugars are coming down every 3 months, can you eventually come off of the medicine and continue to come down?
There has definitely been diabetics who are on insulin, on other medications, and they changed their diet and they started working out and they got off medication. It can definitely happen. I've seen it happen. It's really amazing when that happens. But it's a lifelong journey and you have to continue working hard at it. And you have to continue to monitor your blood work at the same time. You can't just, it never goes away. Okay. So people, say, oh, you're off medication, you're good. You can just, continue living your life as a non-diabetic. That's not the case. You're always going to have diabetes and you always need to monitor it and make sure you're doing okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And again, making sure your cholesterol levels are good too, and your blood pressure levels as well. Also 2 important parts of making sure that your diabetes is managed. And you're symptom free, like you're not having neuropathy, your vision's good, things like that are also good. Your kidney function is good. So there's a lot of things you want to check for. Okay, any more questions?
No, thank you.
You're good. We're good here in the classroom. If Miss
Okay.
Arita and is it Manuel or is it another name for Castillo? Just let me know. I don't want to call you the wrong name. Yeah, that's Miss Arita. That's above. But Manuel Castillo, I don't know if I heard a woman's voice, I thought. So I just want to make sure I didn't say the wrong name. Yeah. There we go, Lisa. Okay, thank you, Lisa. I didn't want to leave you out. I appreciate all of you guys being here with us, and we'll be back with another round of nutrition classes soon. She says she's on her husband's computer. We're just glad you're here.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you guys all for being here.
Yeah. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to email me. My email address is ebaker@rhnmc.org. And you can always check out our website for this recording. I'll have it ready on Monday, so I'll post it on our YouTube channel. And then it'll also be on our events page. Well, actually, it'll be on the About page on our website. And I do post it on our event page that we have on Facebook. So multiple ways to get this recording. And guess what? I email it to everybody that attends. So you get that personalized YouTube channel straight to your inbox. And then I'll send out a blast of what our next nutrition class is going to be about. And if you have suggestions, feel free to email me about what you'd like to see here at our nutrition classes so that we can get Miss Hannah going for something that you guys, something that's more direct towards you. But we thank you all very much and appreciate you coming to the Rural Health Network nutrition class. And we hope you all have a wonderful weekend.
All right, see you guys later.
Thanks, you too.
Good to see you.
You too.